Hey, I'm Dick Pigg, and a lot of people still know me as Ed Sphincter of the Sphincter Brothers skydiving team. This is 1st of September of 2014, and we're in Ray, Michigan at the Midwest Skydiving Reunion. It's been a great time. Uh, let's see, I made my first jump on March 1st of 1970 after going to the drop zone for 2.5 months trying to make a jump. It was a little club in Lebanon, Indiana called the Skyhawks. They didn't really want students. I think they just assumed I would quit coming back. One guy one day would teach me canopy control and tell me to come back in a few weeks or sometime, and because they wanted to jump. So I'd come back in a couple weeks and somebody else would teach me how to do a PLF, and then they'd go off and make a jump and say come back some other time. And the last thing was in March when they hung me in a suspended harness and had me throw out a reserve, and then they said, okay, you've been okay, student, let's go make a jump. Which, what, now? You mean, today, has been oh no, I thought I'd come back again, and I'm trying to remember back 2 months ago now, what was that part about holding and driving and steering a parachute? To see if I can remember that. It all started, I'd never had a big dream of jumping out of an airplane. I liked flying, and every time the local airport would have a open house, I'd spend all my money on airplane rides, penny a pound, that kind of stuff. And they were jumping at that same airport, and I remember going over and kind of looking at them packing, but it didn't really interest me that much, although I loved Ripcord on TV. But a buddy of mine one day said, hey, they jump out there at the Combs Airstrip. Did you ever think about doing that? And I was like, well, no, not really. But then it got to be one of those, well, I'll do it if you do it type of things. And he was still a senior in high school, and I was a freshman at Purdue. So he was there all the time, and I was home one weekend, and he came running in, I made my first jump today. And I thought, oh, shoot, now I've got to catch up and get out there. It took me probably 20 years to catch up, numbers-wise, to him. But anyway, I went out there and went through this training thing I just talked about and made my first jump. I was just going to make a jump, say I did it, or see what it was like. And I didn't see the airport because it was directly below me. I was looking all over the place, out. And when I finally saw it, I had to hold the rest of the way, landed just off the airport, not very far, hit the ground, of course, forgot all about how to do a PLF, or even that I was supposed to, feet, knees, face, boom, figured, oh, I forgot to do that, I must be hurt. Wasn't hurt, didn't feel any pain, so I stood up, and I looked over, it was the last load of the day, the airplane's just coming into land with the setting sun behind it, my best friend's running towards me, all excited, and I thought, I'm going to have to do this one more time. And I never stopped. It just kept getting better and better and better, and so here I am. I could have easily gone my whole life without ever stepping out of a plane, and it's lucky how things work out sometimes. Well, anyway, when I was buying my first PC, I got it, I had my first, well, it wasn't my first malfunction because I blew one up. I was a pretty lousy student. I was okay in static line, but when it came time for free fall, I was back looping off the step and open and unstable. I was such a dumbass, I thought I equated safety with pulling a ripcord. So when I Z'd out and went unstable, I'd just pull a handle. The parachute would come out. And I don't know how many times I saw it coming up between my legs and the pilot chute bouncing off my ankles and going on up. I was wearing these camping boots that had eyelets, and anytime you drag a hose or an extension cord across the yard, it gets snagged on the smallest little thing. Never had an entanglement. I survived, but I couldn't get stable. And I get back down, and the owner would go, I don't want to put you back on the rope. You gotta. So finally, I learned how to get stable. It took me 18 jumps to learn how to fall stable, and then that was a great thing, and I was having a great time the whole time. I didn't even realize how much danger I was in. I was having a ball. But learning how to fall stable, that was a big help in progressing. So I went on from there, and off we go. Let's see, as far as contributions go, one of the things I've taught a lot of students over the years, and a lot went on to become real skydivers, experienced jumpers. Some of them went on to become very good at what they do. Some have become drop zone owners, and that's a source of satisfaction with those guys, those people's success, and also the other folks that just stayed in the sport and wound up having a great time in their lives with all these new friends. When I was ordering the PC, I realized that my life had really taken a turn. Here I had a whole new circle of friends. I still like my old friends, but I just wasn't seeing them much anymore. But it was okay because I had all these new friends that were great, fun people. Bob Branch was the guy who owned our drop zone. After we broke away, the club broke up right after I got on free fall in June of 1970. And Branch took half the group in his airplane to Mooresville, Indiana, and opened a drop zone called Parachutes and Associates. That's where we had tons of fun. It was the most fun drop zone for me, and I've been to a lot of fun drop zones up until the early 80s when we had to move from Mooresville. So most of my early experiences were at the home drop zone there in Mooresville at Parachutes and Associates, where I became a member of the staff, jump master, instructor, a rigger, and then one day a friend of ours decided we should have a skydiving team. And so he called a meeting. His name was Lloyd Tosser, and he called a meeting of the jumpers he thought would be good for this team. This would have been early spring of, well, Branch got a 3 in the winter between 74 and 75, a DC-3. Now we had a DC-3 in addition to our Cessnas. It couldn't take off and land from Mooresville, but he got this other airport in North Vernon, Indiana, and the first load out of the new 3 was in North Vernon. And so shortly after we got this 3, Lloyd calls a meeting of a bunch of us together, and we decided to have a 10-man team. And then the conversation is, what shall we name the team? And there were a lot of suggestions, including Birds of Prey, something like that. One guy wanted Sweet and Low. He was a low polar. We're sweet and low, you know, that kind of thing. Believe it or not, the name Exodus came up, Exodus, but we didn't like that one. And I had been in a loosely knit blues band in Purdue, in Lafayette. I stayed there a year after I graduated in '73, and this guy, we were just playing for ourselves, for fun and for friends. We didn't want to play out or anything. And one day our drummer came in, this black guy, Skeeter, and he was great. He was married, but he always showed up with these 3 hot chicks, and he was a character. And he says, "Hey, I got us a gig at this all-black bar over in Lafayette." And we're going, "Gig? We don't play out any place. We're just doing this for fun." He goes, "Well, I told him we were going to be there in a couple of weeks." And then it's like, okay, we got to have a name. What are we going to call ourselves? And this guy named John Bell, who was one of the guitar players, non-jumper, you know, these are just woofos, and he says, "How about the Sphincter Brothers?" And we're all rolling on the floor. Of course, we had been imbibing in various things, and we're rolling around laughing. What a great name, man. I don't know where he got that. So we were the Sphincter Brothers Blues Band. And he goes, "I'm going to write it on the name of my car and drive around town." And the Sphincter Brothers, that's what. So when we're coming up with team names, I said, "How about the Sphincter Brothers?" Because it was such a funny name. And everybody loved it. And there was a movie out in those years called Kelly's Heroes. And the owner of the drop zone, who decided to buy us all jumpsuits, Bob Branch, he bought 13 Brand X suits that are all matched to be our jumpsuits. So that was an expense for him. And it was very nice. Well, he wanted to start be called Kelly's Heroes because we jumped at Kelly Field. And so therefore Tosser, the captain, wanted us to be Kelly's Heroes, to please our sponsor, Branch, Kelly's Heroes. And the other guys are going, "Nah, I think we ought to be the Sphincter Brothers." And after a couple of weeks, that's all we called ourselves. They wanted to, "No, we should be Kelly's Heroes." And T. Levon turned around and said, "I think we all know what the name of this team is," which was the Sphincter Brothers. And so that's who we became. That's who we were, with an emphasis on the brothers part. You know, like any drop zone or skydiving team, extremely tight bunch. And that's what we'd say when they'd say Sphincter Brothers, and we'd say, "Yeah, we're a tight, muscular band." And we were, too, in the air and on the ground. Let's see now, where was I going with this, Tosser? Oh, yeah. So, at our team meeting, we decided, and Lloyd came up with this idea, Tosser, the captain, that instead of doing a single file exit like everybody was doing, we should hold on to each other and roll the piece out the door and expand it into the formation. Basically, get our grips, get it out of the door somehow, and unfold it in free fall in subterminal, and boom, there's our star. Well, taking 10 people out linked up through a DC-3 door is not the easiest thing in the world. And there were numerous injuries. That's why we had 3 alternates. Gear damage. I remember Craig Sullivan on the team got a brand new container, and within 2 jumps had a huge rip in the fabric of it, the main container from hitting the door. So, but our motto was, don't let go. We're going to learn to fly this thing out. And there were some jumps where we would exit at altitude 10.5 and still be tumbling when it was break off at 35. And the whole dive was spent tumbling around the sky in a funnel. We called it the funnel of death. And it was, some of them were violent and scary. You know, faces would loom up at you, and then here's a shoe going by, and all this wild stuff, and trying to fly it, and would kind of get a little bit, and then, oh no, there it goes again. And so it was kind of wild trying to figure this stuff out. Eventually we decided, okay, we can't take 10 out, so we started scaling it down to pieces. Well, meanwhile, these guys became known as Exodus, were watching us from the plane and leaning out and watching us. And they, on the ground, would come up and try to talk, saying, that looks potentially dangerous. I don't know if you guys ought to be doing that, and we're gonna work with it and figure it out. So I don't know. Well, the next year they were doing it too, and a lot of those guys are my dear friends and all that. But also knowing them, it wouldn't surprise me if because they were better individually, better skydivers than we were. And it's like, I just want to set the record straight here that they didn't come up with this idea. As far as I know, we were the first ones to pull out linked exits and all that. Now, I think in that year we wound up taking 3 out. By the next year we were taking 5 out consistently, and then going from there. So anyway, that was a little historical mention I wanted to put in for our Sphincter Brother team, that we kind of pioneered this linked exit idea. And of course the West Coast guys were all like, oh, that's not how you do it. You got to go out single file, one by one, and build it outside the plane. That's cheating. That's cheating. We're going, no, the idea is a speed star. The fastest you can, however you want to do it. It's a no-show exit, but after that, the name of the game is speed. Oh, no, you can't do that. Which culminated in this big schism and rivalry, and it's all silly, because now everybody's doing it.